Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hi, Dave.
Hello, this is the skating lesson. This is this and that. We are going to be discussing everything going on in the figure skating world this week, including the 2022 Cranberry Open. So if you're new here, please subscribe below, smash that like button. Jonathan, you look so fresh and quiet.
Thanks. Thank you. I got back from Chautauqua.
Yes, we need to talk about this because of the timing. And
the timing was unfortunate. Like I had just, when we did our last episode, I was talking about how I jumped in for an opera performance on that stage. And then Friday, the day I was leaving, Salman Rushdie was stabbed during a lecture. So I had left the institution 10 minutes beforehand, which was fortunate for many reasons, but one of which was they put the entire institution on lockdown. So I wouldn't have been able to get back for a while. So in any way, I'm very thankful to be back in New York. And
so where were you when everything happened?
Literally like just entering the expressway from leaving the institution. I started getting the texts and we were getting faculty. Josh came and picked me up, but I do drive. I was the one driving. So I've just never had a car in this city. It seems more hassle.
I picture you in an SUV. Jonathan, you're very tall. I don't picture you in a car.
Yeah, I always drove SUVs. It was like a just my size vehicle. Yeah.
No, I see you in the metro. That is what I see you
in. Okay. Pinkies up. Okay.
Well, let's talk a little bit because there's a lot happened. We're going to discuss Yuzu's YouTube thing, but I wanted to do the opposite of Yuzu creating buzz has to be the USFS this season. And we have to rant a little bit about this because last year, the Cranberry Open was a really big deal. I actually went to it. There was quite a big field and there was quite a big crowd there. Now, obviously that's in relation to the field, but also there was a pair event. There was an ice dance event. Those families, obviously they're going to stay for other events perhaps, but there was a good arena and buzz at the Skating Club of Boston. This year, the skaters participating in the international event were not listed for quite some time before the event. They didn't announce that anyone was coming. There was really zero buzz. And there were like 78 people watching the live stream. We had more people on TSL Live than they did on the live stream. I mean, it was really, it was embarrassing for the sport in many respects because I don't know about you, but I have felt like this season has been a little bit of a challenge because on one hand, some people get upset if we talk about Russia, but also we can't ignore them. They're not gone forever, most likely. They could come back at any moment. They have not been, Valyeva has not been dealt with. In terms of that situation, Terry is building a new rink, yet she has been here several times. There's all of these situations going on. It's like, how do you cover the Russians? How do you not? Some people act like, you know, Anna Shcherbakova is, you know, attacking Ukraine herself, and it's not, obviously, we understand this. So it's a very nuanced situation. Obviously, many of the shows from Japan can get blocked. Sometimes people can't see it. But the USFS has not really covered any up-and-coming skaters yet. And it's interesting because in a post-Olympic year, you really have to push to get buzz going. This is a year that the US actually has a great shot at many medals. And I'm just, I mean, did you even know Cranberry was going on if you weren't for?
Here's the thing. Yeah, if outside of my involvement with TSL, I would not only not know that it happened, but I mean, the frustrating part for me is to figure out, since I do know it's happening, it was such a chore to figure out how to watch it. Yeah. But I mean, my go-to is obviously YouTube. And they weren't really offering those things. Again, I saw a couple of like secondhand passed down videos of things where you could see the live stream on it and the number was like 50. And I was like, these are real people in the sport. They're real factors. I think that a lot of people that tune into TSL, which the numbers are far greater than that, would have 100% tuned in to easy YouTube viewing of all of these skaters because we're interested and we're ready and we're hungry for a competition like this. And then to see the seats so empty, it was almost like a joke.
I mean, I posted the entries when they were announced and they weren't announced early or timely. The other thing is, the USFS has social media channels that they don't really use in an effective way. Did you notice that I showed Phoebe triple axel from the Colorado Cup? I got that from her coach, right? The USFS then like 5 days later posted on their Facebook after it did well on our Facebook, which to me is just not.
Because instead what they're using the channel for is to find out what John Luke's favorite junk food is. And it was just like, we don't need the fluff. I want access to the actual competitions.
Well, then they make very questionable choices because they've written articles that they obviously pay for. They're using some of their budget. And unfortunately, this is a sport and a situation where when Nathan Chen is a big star and you write about what Nathan is up to and the fact that he's renovating a rink or whatever, and that might not have been written by them, but I'm just using this as an example. He's done. Jason Brown is done in terms of their competitive skating. In terms of, Jason's performing in Japan all summer, but in terms of who is going to watch, people competing and who is going to compete for those eyeballs, they have to start building up the new talent. And this is when they should be sending out people to film Ilya Malinin and post something, or this is when they should be filming Alexa and Brandon, get their new choreography with John Carrot. They have locations. It's not too hard to get someone with a camera. Also, you have to think, okay, who are our stars? Well, maybe it's time that you start to say, Audrey Shin has been around for the last couple of years. Maybe it's time that people get to know Audrey. Maybe it's time that people get to know Amber, but they just aren't helping themselves. And they do have a large Facebook, platform. If they put a video of someone or one of those skaters, people would watch it. It's just really being mismanaged. And because of that, it almost feels like there's a vacuum in terms of skating. Like we can only do so much and not everyone engages us to post things or whatnot. And it's really interesting when you try to build buzz and build enthusiasm for a season, especially this season. It really honestly feels like everyone was so focused on the Olympics, so caught up in what's going to happen with the Russians, and everyone is still sort of confused and trying to get the season underway. But it seems in terms of social media and the direction of the USFS, it's completely lost. And you think about it, last weekend, they had the field that you wish would be at Cranberry that could have gotten people potentially in seats if you announced, oh my God, Isabeau, Lindsay, and Gracie are all competing. But even that was not announced. There was, it was very haphazard. So I find that there's a lot of lack of coordination. And if they want to be building enthusiasm and buzz and everything.
Is this that they don't want people at these events? I mean, I know that sounds silly, but are they trying to not to over publicize them so that they feel safer for the athlete or something?
I don't think so. I just think it's a lack of
seeing what could be there. Yeah.
I don't think that they are recruiting top level talent to work at US figure skating necessarily, or spending the money for it, or doing, you have to get people that think differently. And this is an organization that does things the same way over time.
Yeah.
So that's one problem.
And very dated their approach to all of this stuff. Yeah.
But right now they're really in a spot where they need to push harder. I mean, they have 4 continents, they have events coming and they're likely focused on that, but not realizing that all of this builds to that, right?
Right.
So, and I think Skate America luckily is sold out at the Skating Club of Boston, but there are other events and other
sports. No, is that true?
I mean, I'm sure you could get a ticket on StubHub, probably, Jonathan. Yeah, but
okay, yeah, because I was going to buy it on my to-do list. I was going to get tickets. Oh my God, because is it in the same arena we were watching for Cranberry? It's so small.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So that's part of the thing is skating is moving smaller, and they need to definitely be encouraging viewership. So
this could have been a huge dress rehearsal for Skate America. It could be all this like lead up. Yeah, there's a lot of missed opportunities here.
The Skating Club of Boston has held really great events before, and it's a great facility and they do a good job, but this event was the piss. I mean, in terms of the field, the actual skating. And I think some of that is when you don't have any audience, and then people start to use the excuse, it's early. But for many of these skaters, as we'll go into, it's not early.
Right.
Because for many of these skaters, this is their chance to make a move, and many of them are middling or don't believe in themselves, and there's kind of the upper limit problem, which we can talk about. So yeah, it was just really not great. Yeah.
Where to begin? Where to begin? Maybe the ladies?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the men, I mean, Jonathan, at one point I was like, if the free went the way the short did, I was gonna not do a recap this week, because I thought
But Dave, I can tell you, so I watched the short program and the free skate for the women, and I watched the short program for the men, and I could not find the free skate for the men to be found anywhere. And this is what I'm talking about. I am actively, aggressively trying to find footage, and you're making it impossible for me to watch these athletes. It's doesn't feel great.
Sell a feed, but anyway. So here's the thing. Maddie Schizas is the one skater who competed internationally. She had an Olympic year. She had the world. For her, it's early, right? It's early to be competing so soon, although she is.
And the pressure she must have carried that whole season. I think it's, even though obviously she wasn't a factor for the medals per se, I think the way she delivered at that team event, I think she carried a lot of pressure on herself. So I was curious to see how she sort of was going to look here after maybe that had lifted a little bit.
What did you think of her two programs? Because I have to tell you, I was really disappointed that she was skating to Black Swan. I just thought it felt dated. It felt Ashley Wagner 10 years ago. Yes, I know Canadians love to do an homage to Caitlin Osmond, but I didn't find that choreographically she moves like a swan. So if you're Sasha Cohen or excited by you, I understand why you want to do swan.
She was given one tiptoe moment, where she had to go on the toe picks just for a second and do a little bit of fluttering arms. And it just drew our attention to the fact that that's not what she's skilled at.
The dress also didn't have a skirt, which also was confusing. I think she looks good. She looks early, right? In terms of her actual, preparation. So, and last year she was not great at this event and really pulled it together by the time we saw her compete internationally. I think her free skate is atrocious. And I like the idea of her skating the West Side Story. Okay.
Yes. I'm glad you're
similar coloring to the actress who was in the movie, right? That like a similar look.
And they waited to use the vocal music until she started the step work sequence. And I thought it was genius from a compositional standpoint, right?
No.
No.
Okay, let's talk about it. Jonathan, what is West Side Story about?
Well, it's a modern Romeo and Juliet, right? Culture clashing. There's
a love story. Yeah. There's a balcony scene. There's a death, right? Maddie Schizas' program, the only vocal music they use, and the only music with any heft and drama, which this movie is full of drama and character, right? The only one they use is I Feel Pretty. I'm sorry. To me, I Feel Pretty is an 8-year-old girl playing dress up. That's like pre-preliminary or preliminary music that you would give a girl.
It was interesting because they only tried to choose the upbeat pieces because they did the mambo and they did Somewhere, which is hopeful, and then this one, which was all fun. So this was
story is not upbeat. Okay, let's cut the shit.
It's clear. It's interesting. In two different ways, she's not planning on telling the story. She's just using some terrific music.
But the program doesn't go anywhere, right? And my issue is she's a woman. Right? And mature and has really great qualities. And to me, no, you might use Tonight, you might be Rita Moreno's Somewhere, but really, I think the I Have a Love would be fabulous for this skater, right? She just really has a nice line. It's not too overpowering, but there's a lot of heart to it. And it could really mature Maddie, relate to the audience well. Not at all.
So do you know what I think they were given criticism? I think they were given criticism that she needs to do something to stand out. So I think they tried to give her sort of two dynamic in your face sort of moments. I just don't know that it worked, right? This seems responsive to things they might have been worried was the perception of her from last season.
I find that her biggest thing about her skating is that it lacks full body movement. Like you talk the Alexander method. She sometimes doesn't use her body stretched out in terms of her limbs. Right?
I was talking about the origin of movement. Even when she does an arm thing, it's an afterthought this way as opposed to it like coming from the shoulder blade, which is when we talk about like Sonja or someone like that, they know how to do that. Yeah.
And she has a lack of speed and power. So to me, she needs music that's going to drive her to work on that and give it. I would like to see them scrap this horrific music edit, keep the idea, and redo it. It's just dated, and it makes her younger and immature. They have, I think, to have her be the actress who there's like kind of a resemblance to, like vaguely, to then portray this, they could really make the West Side Story interesting. But I feel to me, that's after Juvenile, you should not be skating. It's just my opinion on it. And
I just didn't mind that they waited for vocals in general until the footwork sequence. I don't know how often we have seen that particular move where it was instrumental, because we know all of these step work sequences with them trying to get those levels, they can slow down and be a little bit odd. So the fact that suddenly there was singing over the step work sequence, at least even if you take it for other vocal music, I thought it was an interesting way to sort of make that seem a little bit more upbeat and energetic than it probably was.
Yeah, it missed the mark. You know, I actually think Alison Schumacher, if you look at her camel spin, her technique often, her skating skills,
her packaging.
She should be the best skater in Canada. Unfortunately, the cricket club is not known for having the best training methods. In that group, in that culture, the full long program is not something really done very often, not daily. This is not the Frank Carroll kind of discipline. This is you leave out the spins, you do maybe a half-hearted, you might leave out a jump, and you can really see it when they compete. And you can really see the lack of building on it. And it's interesting because I think Ali, if she believed that she could be the top skater a little bit more and put a little bit more into it, she could be really great. I mean, you look at her technique, she has the basic skating. She has the full package, but someone like Maddie Schizas outworks her. Maddie Schizas has things that aren't quite right about her skating, but you could tell she has more of the discipline or
drive. Yeah.
And I know that there are a lot of people with the spins and the movement coming out of the spin causes trips, but also the lack of practice and the lack of training in the program. I mean, Ali lost balance in that spin a couple of times in the closing, and it just looked, I don't want to say untrained, like unrehearsed, you know, like it's not like she's not in shape. It just looked like she had this completely from beginning to end and has that like self-belief. So but I think that she's someone that if I were Skate Canada, I would be trying to get her on board, especially with Worlds coming up in Montreal. I would be like, okay, you have 2 years, just get it together.
she always has great material. Sorry, I'm like choking. There's such beautiful qualities to her, it just never seems to come together.
But if you watch just like the movement, the pluses in her skating, the body positions, like it's all there. Probably the best in the event of the top ladies. And she doesn't really have the facial engagement. She could work on that a little bit, but everything else is there. But she has that kind of cricket club thing. And when we talk about the men, I mean, Corey, we did a show on the Junior Grand Prix last year where we talked about him. Everything still stands. Like everything that we said a year ago, nothing has changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. So it was like a little bit maddening. And I think Hanna Harrell, I think we said this last week. She's also someone quite good if she believes.
Who could be making a move right now.
She's someone that looks like if she got a little bit more disciplined in terms of the training and believed in herself more, she could be making a move this year. She's got big jumps, big athletic jumps. They finish typically in the air. I mean, Isabeau and Lindsay are both finishing that rotation on the ice. You know, this is kind of the year for the Hanna Harrells, the Gracie Golds, the Amber Glens to really make a stand, because there are a lot of top skaters in the US that don't have really clean jumps. So if you are, you gotta like show it, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's clear our ladies are showing maybe at the top an under rotation situation, and we have a consistency issue somewhere else. So I think the move that could be made that is most glaring to me is another opportunity for Amber Glenn. And in my opinion, she keeps mucking it up with this triple axel. I just wonder, at this point, you are not gunning for an Olympic team. The field domestically and internationally is considerably weaker at the moment. It seems to detract so much from the performance. It doesn't seem like she's getting it mostly and then occasionally misses under competition lights. This doesn't seem, I don't know why we're doing this.
Yeah, I agree. In the past, a year ago, I thought it was her only hope of going
right
to the Olympics.
It was a totally different scenario then. Yeah.
And I don't know if they still feel like this is how US figure skating is going to believe in her. I no longer think a triple axel is it, because it's not consistent, right? And if it impacts the other elements of the program, it's just not the way to go.
I would go back to a double and then maybe revisit the idea of a triple at a later date, because the problem is it's just getting so solidified that it's a miss. It's either severely under rotated or it's popped, or it's, you know, it's just creating more of a drama about it. And we've almost come to expect it to be a mess.
And she won the free without it, right? And I think for Amber, if she could do two good programs every time, you know, I'm not saying perfect programs, but like good programs, the short was not good, she would be placing higher. People would start to believe in her. This is the year to make a move. Lindsay and Isabeau are both at that age where they could be growing. That could impact their jumps. Someone like Amber's older. She's probably not going to grow, right? You're going to get taller. This is the time to really get consistent and work on those components. Her music choices.
Well, I said when the free skate came up, I thought, sure, well, it's Amber Glenn. I'm expecting cool colors that are bejeweled and a sad song contemplating how it all went wrong. And I was right.
I hate the dresses from her at this point. I think she's a new style. It's just too pageanty, overdone, yet we're going to tell some sad story. She also like has a movement where she talks about something in her head or going crazy, and she goes like this.
Yeah, that's about the level we're getting. Yeah, it happened a few times. There were a few examples of that. But did you notice about 2/3 of the way through the program, the music did that climactic rev up moment, and then suddenly she was like reborn as an athlete. And I thought, this tells you everything you need to know about Amber. Maybe personally, she feels a bit more innish and all this sort of drama. But as an athlete, I was like, will you give her some like booming bass, exciting piece so she can go kick butt with it? Because that's clearly what her body responds to. It was very evident to me the minute the music revved up and she like woke up again after all that sleepy ballad stuff.
You know, in about a month or so, I really think Amber and Gracie should train together. Let them both get to a higher level and more confident if they keep on this path. But to me, they're both, maybe for a week, maybe for two, right? They're both athletic skaters. They've been through things in life, but they're really the best jumpers in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Hanna Harrell there too, okay? But Gracie's competing at Potomac this weekend. They're trying to up the technical content. And, you know, she's making a run this season. And I'll be really curious to kind of see, because Amber's in that spot where they are in a run. And people keep saying third spot, as though Isabeau and Lindsay are locks. And
at the moment they appeared, if we were guessing today, but you're right, I think they're still vulnerable.
I think everything is open.
Yeah.
It just depends. Are they anointing Isabeau the national champion now? Because she could grow, right?
Right.
And I don't know how rotated some of those jumps will be. And she doesn't have the speed that someone like Amber or Gracie has and potentially could have when they're fully trained. So I would look at that and really try to, motivate and push and emphasize that and really make yourself stand out, because that is going, if you're on a warm-up at US Nationals and you have Gracie and Amber hauling ass, and then you have Isabeau hitting beautiful positions but not covering any ice, and then having
so much more apparent.
You could make a dent in the practice session in terms of your competitive results when the judges are watching. So that is something. But someone who is really making a mark this season so far has been Sonja Hilmer, which is really interesting because she's never made it to nationals.
I was really trying to rack my brain if I had seen her at nationals before, because I would have thought she would have done that combo. And I think she's really taking advantage of these two competitions. This is a lot of buzz. I knew about her this time. I was interested to see her, and she delivered. She just knows how to, like we were talking about, where Maddie struggles a little bit in the arm movement. All of Sonja's movements end with a punctuation. It's like start to finish, and it pops, and it is clear, and she's either deliberately soft in them or deliberately sharp in them. And you know exactly what she's going for. And the judges went with it, and with a lot of the PCS presentation marks and things like that. It's just a really interesting skate.
Well, I saw her compete live last year at the Cranberry Open, which is the invitation, anyone can sign up for it. It's held in the morning. This is the international event held later on. Interesting, Sonja, is that she captivates an audience, like you said. She has engagement to her music and what she picks, and she designs her costumes, and she's really into it. She's definitely a unique person. She also doesn't go for content that's beyond her. How many of these skaters do we see that are throwing in the kitchen sink and trying to do everything, but Sonja's content looks more within her? Apparently she has a triple toe. It's not quite consistently clean yet. It's not in the program. So we see her, she missed a sow here, but typically the elements that we're seeing her do, yeah, she goes for 2 sows and a toe. This is not the hardest content. She doesn't have the highest base value. Doesn't matter. Okay, when you see all these people get so hung up on base value, and for the top skaters, if you're Team Tutberidze, yes, I get it, right? But when you're trying to make nationals, trying to move up the ladder, doing the jumps that are within your grasp and getting points for them counts for a lot, right? I mean, how they're popping triple lutzes in the second half, popping triple flips. Like, you can do a triple sow and a triple toe, double toe, and get points, and then it helps their components.
Right.
So it creates a much.
And the spins, like she did a combination spin where each position changed with the music. Yeah. It was unbelievable how it timed out that way.
See, this is someone, US Figure Skating should have had that video from Glacier and posted it on their
right. Facebook. The combo alone is such a fascinating thing to see. Yeah.
And they should explain the rules for it, because everyone wants to know. Yes, it's counting. She got full credit for the combo. She does a triple sow cow, lands on the edge, switches over to the inside edge, and does a double sow in the other direction. I mean, that's unique. That's interesting. It's not worth a ton, but it's designed well for her and what she can do. And it's unique. It makes her memorable for the event. So
yeah, 100%.
That's something US Figure Skating should be highlighting on their Facebook and their Instagram. You know, she's and she made Team USA for the first time. It's an inspirational story. These are things to get people engaged in.
Instead, we're going to get a throwback article on NBC Olympics or something like that about whether or not Ashley's going to compete in the next Olympics. Like that's.
Well, how about they did a whole article about Brady Tennell and about how she's going to return to Colorado? She's not in Colorado yet. It's August. Is she with Ben? What is she doing? What's her health like? Imagine if she doesn't compete, right? What was that?
Right. Why was that? Yeah.
Why was that? So
Yeah.
yeah, the why is interesting. Are they throwing Tom a bone? Like, what is this about?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Tom had that whole picture of them together. Was it the PSA or it was earlier in the off season? But she has not been in Colorado yet. So,
but Audrey Shin has.
yes, Hackensack alum. Yes, Audrey Shin.
Okay.
What did you think about this, Jonathan? I forget what these operas are all about. Okay, I know.
Oh, Tosca.
I know. I'm assuming it's a woman, maybe. Well, these operas are pretty misogynistic. She probably killed her husband or something.
Well, no. She's actually an opera singer in the opera.
Oh, we love a play within a play, just like Pagliacci, right?
Amazing. Yeah, they don't actually do the play, but then she's in love with the tenor. And the baritone needs state secrets because the tenor is a traitor. And he won't give them, so he gets murdered, and she won't give them. So he tries to take her, and she murders the baritone. So
right.
It's very murderous. It's a very violent opera.
Audrey Shin doesn't seem angry enough for the second half of this, right? Like Michelle Kwan had lived. She had lost the Olympics not once, but twice, right? Yeah. When she did Tosca, and she was like giving. And that second point, I mean, that program, same thing as Arn was, to different music, and no one cares. It's all about the
energy. Yeah. Dick was about to fly on out of there during that national.
That girl had energy in the second half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right when Audrey needs to watch Michelle's program a million times and just the character and this
and not the Irina program, which she felt like in the same spot I think Irina always did. Like that music where she does, I think it's the second last, it's like right at the worst music that sounds like falling tragic music. I would never have placed that there personally.
I know she was working with Victor Pfeiffer on her jumps last year, and they looked a little cleaner with the leg. She fights, she has a little bit of a rap. It's like
I was going to ask you about it because I didn't recall the rap and I didn't see it on all the jumps, but on the opening Lutz, it was pretty obvious. Yeah, okay.
She's one of those skaters where like in practice, it might be a little better than under competition where she reverts back. That's something that they've worked on for a long time. What I like about Audrey Shin is that she's very pleasant. She's an all-around skater.
Great posture.
Great posture. I wouldn't say that she has any one strength, like it's all pretty even.
Solid.
She's solid as a viewer. And it's all pretty pleasant. I think they need to clean up some things, but she's always trained. So it's easy to watch her.
Although maybe it didn't seem that way so much to me here.
Well, she did pop in the second half, but
yeah, and there were lots of like little balance check, little trips. It just newness stuff. It just seemed, I don't know. There were a couple of
overall.
Okay.
Audrey, more reliable than Amber Glenn, more reliable than Hanna Harrell, right? She's someone that I would expect to see in the final group at U.S. Nationals. It's not the strongest field of U.S. ladies, but when you start to think Lindsay, Isabeau, Audrey, Amber, maybe Gracie, not a bad field. I would want Hannah to be in there. Sonja Hilmer is making.
She just had a rough start. Hannah, that's 2 in a row.
She's
tripping out the gate. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
She could be really good.
And that was kind of nice to see for Amber because that was like a total implosion, the short program.
Yes.
Fall on the cartwheel, which was rather unfortunate.
How did we forget about it? John.
We didn't forget about the cartwheel.
Amber Glenn should not be doing a cartwheel. I get that she's a TikTok sensation. She's young, she's current. Take that out.
Yeah, she's currently re-examining the choice to include a cartwheel, I think.
Well, now the last thing you want to do is you want to be Amber Glenn, who's not been the most reliable skater under pressure, and have in your head that you fell on a cartwheel like that. And she fell on the music, which was so devastating. Like,
yeah.
And it was, we've seen Medvedeva have a fall. We've seen Amber. In general, a cartwheel is only a highlight element when like 1 or 2 people do it. When everyone,
I was just gonna say that it's lost the novelty.
You know what? When a Kevin Amos does it, it makes sense. He's that kind of a skater. I get that Amber on paper, on TikTok, seems like that kind of a skater, but in person, she's kind of like a boring ballady type skater.
Right.
They haven't figured out. I get that they're trying to edge her out with the short program. I would just redo the costumes, redo the makeup.
Yeah, but even that
redo
road jack, it's still like slow. I think she needs something fast.
I'm confused that she's being coached by Damon Allen, and nothing against Damon, but he's the good cop in Colorado. Like when Tammy's going to scream in your program that your jumps are cheated mid-program, Damon's like the nice one, right?
Okay.
For someone like Amber, maybe you need someone a little bit more stern, or at least have them equal. Like there just seems to be a little bit of a lack of direction, right? If I were U.S. figure skating, I would be like, maybe we add someone to the team to kind of, and I don't think Tammy should be the answer to everyone. So maybe you bring Victor more days a week or something and just kind of focus that. Yeah. Know who your players are, know what Damon's great at, know what this one's great at. Amber seems like someone that needs some direction, and I would definitely.
But she seemed to have found it before the free.
Well, she's so freaking talented. I mean,
well, that's the thing. Yeah.
She's so freaking talented. And I like that she had a mistake on the first jump and she came back for the rest.
Right.
So that was really impressive, especially for her. So, well, you were talking, who are we talking about? Oh, we talked about Michelle Kwan and Tosca. Now, I did post a clip this week that you wanted to discuss. Okay, some people are obsessed. Jenny Kirk doesn't get it. She does not understand. Nolan also doesn't understand Joanna Ng. And they don't get it, Jonathan. I think there are two people in the world, two types of people. You either understand why Joanna Ng is fabulous.
Or you're headless. What is the problem? This girl was everything I ever want from a figure skater at age 12. Dave threw up a throwback clip to Skate Canada, like 1980, what?
1990.
1990, excuse me. And every line was finished, every position was
new event. It was more similar to solo dance, but like with some jumps thrown in. It was this interpretive.
It was sensational.
Yeah,
I was completely obsessed with this skating.
The thing I couldn't. So apparently Jamie Isley choreographed it. She would choreograph for Mark Mitchell, Peter Johansson. Okay. Can you imagine Frank Carroll, the stiffest, like, yes. Well, you need to be doing your movements, Joanna. Like, could you just imagine him coaching this every day? I couldn't picture.
Yeah, it was a borderline burlesque number. Like,
what do you think the Frank comments were like? Well, you need
to bigger, fill the space.
Yes, a little bit more line and a little bit
finish the shimmy. Yeah.
Right.
but I think he meant it. Like, they seem to have a good rapport. You could be totally full of it in those interviews, but
what's with Frank giving 12-year-old girls Miss Saigon? Michelle Kwan did Miss Saigon 93 when she was maybe it's a Frank favorite. I don't know. What I will say, Joanna Ng, they said she was with him for 6 years at this point. So Frank taught her that layback. It was a pretty layback. We have never seen a pretty layback from Frank before. Joanna made us believe it is possible. A Frank really like good Dick Button approved layback.
Yeah.
And she did a nice Spielman, like all the things we didn't see.
She was amazing. I literally, it was a skater you kind of knew existed, and I went back only to see that like Lisa Irwin made her at Junior Nationals one year. But whom we love, but this was a remarkable talent.
Yeah, so
I loved watching it.
She went on, it kind of reminds me of like Yevon Mock, where you're like, okay, maybe competitive skating wasn't their thing, but in terms of like great skater, what Yevon has done even on Instagram and in the shows, I'm like, that's one of the great skaters of all time.
Correct.
If I'm casting a show, I'm putting Yevon in there. Okay.
Yes.
And Mark Henready would be thirsting, doing anything to get more attention. He was showing himself stretching and falling. Yevon would still be prettier. She would still get the spotlight. Okay.
But he could be invited to the show. Yeah.
He'll be in this show.
Yeah.
He's just, he can brush her hair. But let's let's talk about like Joanna. She was in Pocahontas for Disney on Ice, and she works with scary Sarah Kawahara, who's fabulous and terrifying. People in Disney have stories about Ms. Sarah choreographing and like she is.
Well, that makes me glad to hear that she went on and did that, because obviously we know she didn't quite go on to the senior career, one would have hoped.
But I believe she works with Sarah, Emmy Award winner, working on, you know, probably I, Tonya, like the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, like
yeah,
they put all the cruise ships on, like they're doing pretty well. But like one of those hidden gems where you forget that this exists.
That was remarkable.
Frank and Miss Saigon for a 12-year-old Asian. I'm not sure. How about like Tracy really giving us the history of Miss Saigon?
Oh my gosh, the way she broke down the story, I was like, and then
also, Ricky Stakem wanted to know, not factually accurate, but they really told us a whole tale.
Yeah, I was like, that's not quite, and also not quite what she interpreted either. But it was, I think the point was made that it does seem heavy material for a 12-year-old. Not as bad as Hey Big Spender, maybe, but maybe.
Listen, Abby Lee Miller would love it and say she had great interpretation.
And she did point her toes. Yeah, no sickle feet.
The other thing of the Cranberry men, so Corey Circelli, interesting is that Brian has tried to get him to get a clean triple axel, right? He has done a triple axel from a spread eagle. That is his entrance. He's a little, as all skaters are, set in their ways. He has that entrance. He likes it. They did it to get the left arm in front. And twice now, Brian has tried to get him to do the triple axel without the spread eagle, and he's lost it. Now, for a skater like that, I would just keep it on the spread.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, he's trying to do quads, but for being so tall, he lacks power. And at cricket, they don't really like to do off-ice training. They only do Pilates because that's maybe what Yuna or Yuzu did, but they have different bodies, right? Corey lacks speed and power, and being tall, it's more glaring. And he has nice lines, but when you see the lack of preparation, it just is, he like the dying in the second half, but he always decides to take his smoke break middle of this camel spin every year. And he's not someone that has 50 quads. Like he needs getting the Jason Brown spin points. That needs to be his strategy. You can't get the spin points if you don't practice the program with the spin.
Right.
And it looks like it every time. We said the same thing on the Grand Prix last year. Like it's become his signature is this like camel change camel. And he's done Pagliacci.
While smoking a camel. Okay. Okay.
The Pagliacci, like he has nice music choice. I don't know. You're from the music club. You trained with Jason Brown. You're doing Jason Brown's Prince music. That's always been a little bit of an interesting choice. I don't know if I agree with
and
that.
I don't know that that is like what Corey of all people had to do.
Yeah.
Because like you say, he cuts a very like tall, elegant figure on the ice that doesn't scream like Prince to me. Like Disney Prince, but not this Prince.
This last weekend, I was reading the Jeanette McCurdy book from Nickelodeon star. I've never watched her on Nickelodeon ever, but I was told to read the book. I did. I couldn't put it down. And its title is awful, but you got to read it. It's okay. I'm so glad my mom died.
Oh, okay.
But it reminds me of every single skater that I train with, where they have a really intense parent. And I think what it comes down to is deciding, like for Jeanette, did she really want to act or did she act because it made her parent happy?
Of course, yeah.
And I think for so many of these skaters, they have to decide, one, are they doing it for themselves? And two, how good do they think they can really be? And if they think they can be really good, they have to go all in. But they have to know if they want to do it. Because some of these skaters seem like they're just like on the wheel and they keep on the hamster wheel and they keep going year after year. I mean, every single guy in the men's event, I was like, what is happening? What are we doing?
And again, in a field and at a time internationally where there's a lot of open doors, there's a lot of moving that can be done. And it just blows my mind to think that a lot of these programs seemed untrained, and I know it's early in the program, but when we talk about in performance, there are so many variables that you are not in control of, but you are in control of how you have prepared for that event. So It just
Well,
seems unusual to me they wouldn't show up trained.
almost every one of these skaters has something to prove, hasn't made it on the world stage. So they need to start building their reputation and their consistency and their confidence now so that they can nail it on the Grand Prix. And so many of them look like they went into the event being like, oh, it's early, I don't have to get ready. That's the other thing too, is that and sometimes when skaters train with top skaters, like people that are at the World, you start thinking like, oh, well, they're not doing a full program yet. I don't need to. But you have to be very real with yourself about like where you are and what you need to do. Because
yeah, I would be like, they don't have to, I need to.
Like Alexa and Brandon just getting their programs now, yes, late, but they don't have to do any senior Bs. They won the Worlds, they have to be ready for Skate America. It may still be a little bit of a race to be 100% for Skate America, but they don't need to do that like this year.
Right, they're not out to prove the same things that these sort of B-listers who are looking to move into the A-list could have. Yeah, I agree. Because they, Tomoki's been knocking on that door.
And Tomoki, great 2 weeks ago, this free was a disaster. I mean, it was not his moment.
Yeah.
And he's so good. And he was so good 2 weeks ago, but not doing it again. They have to figure out what happened. I don't know. Who knows what happened between the events. Mark.
And in the short program, I would like to say, first of all, that music strikes me as something that Shoma would excel at. I was like, Shoma should steal that music. And also, even when he did the cantilever, like there was sort of a moment of silence that led into the recap of the music. I don't know. It was kind of a cool choreographic idea, music edit idea. And again, I want to give it to Shoma. But okay. I was going to ask you about Eric, because he's another one that looks 1,000 feet tall on the ice, and I'm sure I'm going to be floored to find out how tall he actually is.
I don't know if he's 1,000 feet tall. He is long and lean. What is, the 90s and the fashions are coming back, right? The way his hair was with the center part and like the bowl, not complete bowl cut, but like there was like an homage, right?
I gotcha.
He has highlights and he had like a little bit of a goatee action. He reminded me from Billy from Scream. And you know what? It's not an insult because every 90s horror film had a hot guy that was the murderer, right? Like this,
with some highlights. Yeah, okay.
I was getting Billy from Scream from him. Billy didn't have highlights, but I was like, this vibe is on point.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's very talented. I think he's at that stage too, where it's like, is he gonna excel? Is he gonna, in that he needs to make?
Yeah, I kind of, we've seen a lot of like go into the club programs that have been attempted, but this one kind of was working for me a little bit more than some of the others. And I feel as the season goes on, it will get tighter and cleaner, which will make it even more effective. I think that program has the short program has the potential to kind of be a thing.
Yeah. And Mark, who won, the only Israeli who doesn't train in Jersey. I mean, what is that about?
He didn't get the memo.
Not the only people are going to be like, Daniel Scotland doesn't, but the Israeli Federation is mostly out of the Montclair ring. Okay. How about Alexa and Brandon's program choices? They're working with Shaylin again for the short. They are working with the Kurz for the free, which is interesting. People have
I like the Kurz, so I will be interested to see. Did they announce music or they just announced that they were collaborating?
Sign of the Times is going to be their free skate music. I think that seems within their wheelhouse.
I don't know what that means.
It's Harry Styles.
Oh, okay.
It's
fine.
Their wheelhouse, but current enough. I think it's fine. I think it'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully the choreography is good and that can work. Their short program is Separate Ways, Worlds Apart from Stranger Things, which I haven't finished Stranger Things, so I haven't heard it in there, but
I never started it, but apparently there's a character named Jonathan Byers. I'm singular, but he's plural, I guess.
Also, as I was scrolling through to get their music, I just came about the post yesterday. Alena Kostornaia was in her wedding dress marrying Sergei Polunin, who just got 3 tattoos now of Vladimir Putin on his chest.
Neat.
Can we, when they say, does anyone object? Although, do they still do that at weddings? Do they only? Like,
I wouldn't want anyone to.
They don't do that in Catholic weddings, but can we all object? I mean, what could go wrong? You're marrying a guy that has 3 tattoos of Vladimir Putin. I don't know. I mean, any sort of, and it's not just that it's Putin. If he had 3 tattoos of Joe Biden, I would look at him sideways for that.
Correct. Yeah. They lost. Meanwhile, in Russia, everyone's getting surgery, right?
Right. So, and they're having their junior test skates this week. Now, Shcherbakova had a knee injury last year. She's getting surgery for it. They waited until after the shows to get her that surgery. Kostornaia having a hip surgery. She has to wait until later in the month to get it. They're already putting on their own version of the Grand Prix. I'm starting to wonder who is going to compete in their events, that they obviously want to show everyone that.
Because were they planning on mixing juniors and seniors?
I'm
sort
sure
of how they do.
Yeah.
Because then they're fine. That's the whole thing. There is such a surplus of juniors.
But remember, Akatieva also had an injury and didn't look back to normal in the clip that we saw. Maybe she will be by then, but wasn't yet. I mean, look, I think Dr. Shcherbakova is very talented and at what he does. I listen, Shcherbakova's transformation from September into February was incredible. I mean,
Popper's queen,
up there with Sonikova's rising marks, like what she was able to pull.
That's right, yeah. Sonikova did it faster.
But you're starting to be like, okay, remember when they all started to get injured? How back is Daria? Are they going to be doing watered down programs? Maybe like an interpretive free with 3 triples, or I don't know. They're also like, Zagitova basically made a comment like she would perform at some of them. No, they've had people do exhibitions before. Naturally, every article on Sports.ru is
that's not coming back to me. She doesn't strike me as someone who would want to come back.
I would love a fake comeback, even if it's just for these events, right? Wouldn't you kill for the drama of it all? For them to fake whether or not she could make it back? I mean, it would be so entertaining. What do I think will happen? I think Tutberidze is going to win everything in this fake event.
Yeah.
She'll win it, and then people will say, oh my God, she should be competing. Then the fans will debate whether or not Tutberidze is doping.
Because Trusova's off the ice, right?
Oh, she's skating. She's skating.
Well, there's also, again, I mean, you and I can talk off camera. I have my own thoughts about this Mark whole like PR machine.
You think it's a showmance? Like, is this for PR?
Yes, of course. I will not say the thing I'm thinking, but plenty of people are probably thinking it. But I'm like, Trusova, like, as this like fake girlfriend. It reminds me very much of like, I don't know, 1992 men's figure skating fluff coverage. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
Didn't he make a comment last year at one point? Anyway,
yes.
We also see her doing like all of the sports. We've seen her do the long jump, the high jump, curling.
Weren't they surfing in Abu Dhabi or something?
What else have we seen her do in the off season? I'm waiting for like shot put. I'm waiting. Like, what is she to do next? Like, what?
Javelin.
There was an article about her doing gymnastics. I mean, definitely want to see her with some rhythmic gymnastics items, maybe some softball. What?
Roller derby.
Yes.
Roller derby. Yeah.
This like Simone Biles series on Snapchat, I have no interest in. Simone tries beekeeping. Who cares? Truth tries the roller derby. I don't care what language it's in. I'm watching.
I'm watching. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Like I'm there for it. I
think Anna Pogorelaya, she could also be in it.
I would watch.
At least she'd have a helmet. Yeah. I'm being serious. Roller derby is dangerous, even more dangerous than the skating falls. Yeah.
Listen, we need new venues to make money in skating. Look, no one was going to the Cranberry. That's why I think what Yuzuru Hanyu did with his YouTube training is so brilliant. The actual execution of it, maybe not the best, but the idea to have people film, because remember, he said when he retired that he wants to be still an athlete, even though he's professional. So he was showing us all of the jumps that he was training. He kept trying to do that Saime program again and again and again. He was having problems with the sound.
Yeah, in like sort of sections, and then, but did land some beautiful quads.
I didn't think it was like necessary to watch him stretch for an hour, but it was riveting once you could fast forward through it. I think it's really business-wise, the amount of money he can make on YouTube through monetization, through watch time, through sponsors, whatever clothing, whatever banner is on him. There's huge revenue potential for a top skater. Imagine if Virtue and Moyer had done this. I think Nathan should do it, like at Yale either, but like a little bit different. Maybe we don't need to see Nathan do all the stretching, but Nathan doing a quad practice or doing quads and talking about what he's doing, that would be interesting to make it
like a lecture recital, except it's a recital of quads. That would be beautiful. Yeah, I would watch that.
Listen, if you're an athlete and you want to go to school, but still keep up your training a bit and make money, I think for someone like Nathan, it could be a really big opportunity to someone even like Jason Brown to like show different,
because people, so the point of this was that people like paid a subscription to watch that practice.
It was just live and it was free.
No, but because so many people would have watched it on YouTube, it will monetize that way.
Yeah, it will monetize.
Yeah, got it. Because even the comments alone, it was like crazy fanatics. Like, hi, Yuzu, do you remember me? And I was like, do you think he's reading the comments? Like, yeah, okay.
Think if I'm sure he'll do it again or at some point or do something else, but people were saying, oh, it's just so narcissistic. Honestly, so is performing shows. It is a way, it's a new venue to make money, right?
It's an interesting insight also for the fan. Like, you're right, we don't get to see all those kinds of practice sessions, and to see him warm up for an hour, maybe not watching it live, but knowing that's how he sort of eases into things. I don't know, there is something very interesting and behind the scenes about it.
I have a lot of ideas about how like skaters near the top could make money with training. Like, contact me, I have ideas. But there's a lot, I think, that can be done. Remember, Marie-France tried to do this during the COVID season with those teams. And then we didn't see her do it last year. But remember, they all debuted their programs. And we saw that was the one time we saw the tango program that Papadakis and Cizeron were working on. So there is something in this space, I think, to grow it and to grow an audience. And the way videos get recommended on YouTube is through engagement, likes, comments, watch time. So Yuzu doing a practice session where so many people watch and they're watching for 2 hours, that video is going to be recommended anytime you search the Yuzuru Hanyu. That it like opens up skating avenues.
Yeah.
So
yeah, as opposed to closes them, like when we're trying to watch footage from Cranberry.
Listen, businesswoman Tessa Virtue should reunite with Scott Moyer like once a year and do it. And like skate together.
And film it. Stream it.
They could work on some of their old choreography, work on the old compulsory dances, do some twizzles, like, and just like show and talk about what they're doing. It could be a really big way for skaters to actually make money. So
it would be really interesting to watch too, genuinely. Yeah.
So anyway, interesting. I'm not against it. I'm cautiously optimistic to see what he could do. So what was your moment of the week?
No, I was just realizing as we did that, I don't know that I have one. You start, Dave. I feel like we're at a restaurant and I haven't decided what I'm going to order.
Well, Jonathan, I'm going to say the Joanna Ng video. You know what?
Oh, Dave. Me too. Me too.
You know why? Because like part of me wants to say the cartwheel, and then part of me is like, go with Joanna Ng. Go
with Joanna. Of course you should go with Joanna, because I'm going to take that answer too. That's so good. Hold an edge like she does.
Yes. Hold it edge. And look sexy. All right. Bye.